encourages networking. So early on, we've had some great opportunity already this morning to interact, and we got some people to move out of seats and join different tables. So that was great. But your name tags, so you've got your name tag. So if you look at your name tag, do you have something on the back of your name tag? Does anyone not have something on the back of their name tag? Okay, so when I talked about the association earlier, I talked about some of the competencies that we have or that we promote within the association. So I've got 4 of those that I've utilized on the back of your name cards. Each of you have 1 of those competencies. How many, so you have best practice sharing, or you have learning, or you have creating industry tools and standards and processes, or networking. Okay, so you've got 1, you need to find the other 3. So if you find 3 other people that have the missing link, we're going to have you write those down on a piece of paper, and Sharon's getting those pieces of paper. So we'll have you go to break, and during that break, start networking. We're going to hand out pieces of paper for you to write the other 3 names, and I've got 4 Amazon gift cards for the group that I draw and select. So, stakes are high, chances are good. Grab some coffee or tea, and begin to look for the other 3 people that have that, and we'll bring the papers to you. 3 others, you don't want to match yours. You want opposites. You want to select your enemy.
What's yours? Learning. Same to her. Yeah.
We've got the rest. I've got the other 3.
Do you guys want to get coffee?
Yeah. Write our names down on a piece of paper.
Yeah. Would you want to grab coffee and come back?
I think all we need to do is just write down our 4 names. Is that it? She's right. No, you only need to find a group of 4.
Oh, I see. Got it. Fine.
Alright, so we'll come back and find you. We're all sitting on one table.
I can comment on what
Yeah. I need to go to the bathroom.
So your team already have networking?
So technical to network, right?
Oh, so many are networking actually. I think we'll have to move around.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Here. You have 3 already? No. Then I'm staying with my previous. Yeah. We got a 4.
Okay, yes, great.
Emily, hi, I'm Lisa.
Chan.
It's too hard. So what did we write?
Learning.
Oh, my name and sticker. Okay.
Learning.
My sticker is best practice. Sharing. Here one is Chandana.
Where can we get this?
Emily, right?
Yes, right. How can we get this?
You could get from.
And who are we missing? Who was the fourth in our team?
Angela.
Angela. Do we have to write the names of their stick? I mean,
Yeah, probably best.
so yours is networking.
Yeah, yours was best practice, right?
Mine was best practice. Emily, yours is the trends and so on, right? Industries. Okay. So 2 standards practices. And I guess Angela has learning, doesn't she?
How to spell your name?
Nandita. Yeah. I've just used the first name, I think. Yeah.
Do we submit the form now?
So what's your name?
SHUKLA. There's a gift card.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm dying to know the name. So should we just pop our papers in?
So are we supposed to be discussing something?
I don't know. I thought it was a break.
Yes, now.
And yours? And yours?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Yours is
Best practice. Best practice.
learning and sharing. And then yours is networking.
Yeah.
And then yours is
Sharing.
We need learning.
We still miss one.
Yes. Oh, you're already.
standards and practices.
Okay. Now what do we do?
There's one.
Let's ask.
Yeah, we're listening to you. So if we
It's only 3. Is it networking? What else?
Learning.
Best practice sharing, networking, and
Creating industry to standards and practices.
we missed the 3. Okay. So we should.
Yeah, we just pass this back and then we will have a break.
Fair
And later
enough.
he will go out to
Oh, cool.
and probably
Okay.
there's an activity later, but nothing else.
So we give it to him.
It's okay, I think we just networking. That's fine, we can still carry on.
we're missing a learning.
Is there any industrial tool sharing? Is there that one? A little piece of paper to write everything down?
Well, we can set our 3 down.
Yeah.
So I think rainbow is for our main starter.
Okay. Yes, thank you.
That's what we are supposed to do. Just put down the name, the group's name. There's 3.
I'm really thoroughly confused.
Have your tea. You do great.
I think it's Zachary.
Zachary would be the one to tell you.
So Sam said that it's okay that whatever person.
Yeah, that's right. We've got the 3 others. So if we take you, we've got the 3. We have the 3 others. Yes. Is that okay?
I was Sorry, they asked.
Yeah, she first.
You can actually be in two groups.
Can you?
Oh, fine, then let's
Perfect.
You're popular.
Jimmy Crossley.
No. Greeting. That's good.
I was confused.
Yeah.
Is it the same? No, it's with the 4 different ones.
No worries.
I have networking.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Do you mind if I put down the name? Nice to meet you. We are the same. Stay. They need you. Yeah, you're not supposed to find it. That's where yeah, you all supposed to be different. So you
The editor of the magazine.
Oh, okay.
Editor of the picture.
Michael. Two of our members are actually. She in pizza group.
You need a crew. Yeah. So, because you left her.
Yeah, sorry. I wasn't.
Rainbow's. So Rainbow, we have a new member here.
Sorry. You do? No.
Dimmy is opting. Did you already turn the paper?
Yeah, I already submitted.
So
We are the same. Yeah, we're not supposed to go with the same. We're supposed to go with all different. That's right. Yeah. Oh, then
so we can switch out.
Oh.
Do you know who it belong with?
Yeah, but you need to find different. You don't find the thing. You find
I
different.
didn't catch her name. Sorry. Emily. Emily. Yeah.
Yes.
We are the most delicious.
It's also supposed to be different. So you're supposed to find 3 others. Michael and yes. Correct. He's supposed to find the same.
If we are the different wording, we can combine together for 3 persons. So 4 people. 4 people. If you have your group, I already have a group. So what you need to do is just have a group in both factors, and you will pick out later the winner. And I think there's probably an activity as a follow-up from there.
The fact that if that person is in 2 groups, then that person can see by child's office.
Really? Yes. Okay.
Can I know name? And next. Another person? And next.
Freddie. Sorry. Yeah, you
Just started here.
So you chose an awful instead of applying the market. Not for this thing. Okay. So they're not everyone.
So it made sense. So I said to the guys, because I said to the guys, okay, so badging each other. So 2 out of 3 so far. Very well. We'll see what happens.
Sounds good.
And we have one
Is it subscription based? Anyone else?
EYN for business section.我走同你呢一齊搞過呢個。
Anyone still have clips to turn in? Have them all? All right.
So what is the solution on the deck? You know what that you don't know what so the deck is all just like stuff.
Okay.
What
Okay.
so we own it with stopping. So you open up and one entire without workers. You have a joint venture. So I would be the market. Deco itself, its revenue is stock. It's from so it,
Welcome back. Anyone still have a paper to turn in? So, Michael, since you're not, well, since our newest team member here, and you are in here, that's okay. Ready? Can you remind us what we're drawing for? For $50 Amazon gift card. US dollars. US dollars. I'll see what's going on. All right. You know, this is pretty amazing. So, Ben, you told me you were going to be the winner. Yeah. And you are. Okay. And along with Alfonso, Stephen, and is it, who else is on your team? Okay. Grace. Grace? Grace. That's what I thought. Okay. Will the four of you stand up? So I know Congratulations. Yeah. Congratulations. Who else is on the team? Thank you.
Let's take a photo together.
Right. Great. Thank you. It was funny, people thought that we had to have different people, so if Neil was already on my team because he had learning or whatever he had, I couldn't have him, so people stopped talking to Neil, but then someone got smart and said, no, I have more chances to win if I join multiple groups, so I like how you think. Good job. We're doing a selfie version of it. Could go viral though, so don't laugh. Okay. All right, thanks for playing.
You're doing a selfie.
All right, welcome, Ben.
I don't know that I stepped in.
And Ben, interestingly enough, you were talking about this session as well when I met you this morning, and the interest that you had in it. So you're just predictive, you guys today. Our next session is Embracing Total Talent, and it's a workshop on building a holistic and agile talent acquisition technology ecosystem. I'm really pleased that Alexander Managed Solutions is going to be delivering this portion of our program. And even more so that Neil Jones, who is appointed as a regional head of APAC, just a little year ago, a little over a year ago. And he heads the APAC leadership team and is driving APAC's growth and strategy and business plan objectives. And the presence that they have offers them a great opportunity to support their clients, and he's working to deliver them to the next stage of that growth model that they have. But I think it's also important to point out that in addition to his APAC responsibilities, he does support and leading global sales. And Neil has certainly no stranger to the RPO industry. He has spent a lot of time working within that as both a managing director and as the CEO of the Adecco Group for Australia and New Zealand as well. So it's my pleasure to welcome Neil to the stage. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I think Zachary managed to make it sound really old there. Brief introduction in my own words. I've been in the TA sector for 25 years, and I'd really summarise myself as a global citizen. So I've worked in the UK, Europe, Asia twice, and Australia twice. So I've kind of seen a lot of different models from different geographies. And worked in Asia from 2011 to 14 and came back in January this year. And one of the first, I've been out on the road pretty much all the time since then. One of my first questions my wife asked me on a kind of Friday night kick back over a glass of wine is, what's happening in Asia? How is it different from you here in 2011, 12, 13? And I think, for me, there's two things. Firstly, which is really encouraging, and I see in Asia from when I was here previously, much more of a convergence of global models. So back in 2012 and 2013, the most common answer I got was we're different. We can't align with global policy. But I see some really positive changes there. And the second one would be around technology. So the first time I went back to Shanghai after a kind of 3-year break, I was blown away about the things I was thinking of doing. We talk about maturity, there's things in some parts of Asia where they're looking to jump a generation in how they use technology. And that really informs the kind of the format we picked for today. So I'm going to talk about two subjects, total talent and digital ecosystems within total talent. And I think those two really, because they're the questions that our clients ask us the most often, and also the questions that probably provoke the most kind of animated debate. So before it's not a sales pitch, it's going to be 30 seconds only. Before I jump into the content, just a brief background for anyone that does not know about Alexander Mann Solutions. So we're a private equity-owned company, 4,500 employees. We operate in 90 countries, 40 languages. Our DNA has traditionally been RPO, but over the last 4 or 5 years, we've really focused on building out our breadth of services, and that really leads to the total talent discussion today. Today we have a consulting business that advises on digital integration and branding, over 400 people, and we have over $1 billion spend in MSP to go with or contingent work to go with 120,000 permanent hires in a year. Okay, so we're going to make this session interactive as well in a slightly different way. So the way we've designed the session is, initially I'm going to spend 10 minutes talking about total talent as a kind of topic area, and then I'm going to give it out to the tables and for 10-15 minutes for you to talk about a few questions we pose. So we're going to give you information, but then we want to steal some information and thoughts back. We put AMS votes on most tables, and a word of warning, I'm going to pick on the tables, and there should be a nominating spokesperson, so we do want someone to give a kind of a 2 or 3 minute summary of what you discussed in the 10 minutes. So we're going to do 10 minutes on total talent, have a chat for 20 minutes, and then we're going to do the same on digital and how they all map together. Okay, this is a scene set, and Elliot kind of primed into this really well in terms of the concept of total talent. I think really this discussion has been going on for years, and kind of probably hasn't seen anywhere near the traction it should, but certainly from my perspective, as kind of a global player watching the changes in the industry, I think what we see now is that it's becoming more important, more imperative really with these macro influences on what's happening. We've all heard these kind of stats and debates many times. Between now and 2030, we would anticipate 40% of the jobs that we do today won't be around. We see huge skill shortages around things like digital, where there's just not enough talent. Elliot touched on demographics. So, before everyone wanted a perm job and a contract or a temp job or secondary, the folks that are leaving work today, they have very different demands in what they want from work life. And then deregulation is really leading to an explosion in the contingent working market. So all of these different things, I think in the past, HR has done permanent hiring, procurement's done kind of contract and temp, and then it's usually been the IT department, something doing SOW. But as a talent acquisition function, with all this merging together, it's going to be imperative for organisations to have a clear view of where they're going with total talent. And really, what we see with all these different changes is what, particularly in Asia, is what I would call a talent crunch. So there's some really horrendous data points here when you think about finding talent for the future. So this exists globally, but on most charts you see, Asia would normally be the area, the countries with the biggest talent gap, the biggest headache to fix for. Just pull out a few stats. If you look, Hong Kong, we're here today, in terms of their ability to find talent as a country at the moment, it's ranked as the 3rd most difficult country in the world. And that's something that's not only impacting companies, it's impacting the country. So the estimate is that by 2030 there will be a 1.73 trillion gap in terms of skills development talent. You go to Singapore, I'm based in Singapore myself, 67% of employers say they can't find talent today. So this is not, I think before it was a problem for the future, now it's a problem for now. We're actually feeling the pain. And I was kind of dubious on this stat, but China has a data gap, 228 million, bigger than all but, job gap, bigger than all but about 3 or 4 countries in the world. So huge challenges that we're all facing. And if you think of a lot of things that we talked about today, SOW, freelancers, different ways of working, contractors, perm and so on, in the past, the talent acquisition leader, their job was to manage people and talent. But I think the kind of world of the future is going to be more around managing segments of work. Some things will be automated, some things will be done by people, some things will be outsourced. So it's a far more complex kind of challenge that we're facing. So, in case I scare anyone when I go through this slide, the first thing I'd say is that I think everyone's really at the beginning of the total talent journey. I've spoken to probably 70 TA or HR heads in the last 6 months. And most people are at the infancy stage, so I don't claim for 1 second everyone has fixed the problem. But when we look at total talent as an area, from an AMS perspective, we see that there's kind of actually 5 key things you need to get right in terms of your strategy. The first one is how you buy talent. So if you think of traditionally how a talent acquisition function would work for experienced hires, it would go out and it would hire on skills and experience. When we look at this skill shortage that's coming, that's not going to work in the future. So really the kind of modern thinking in talent acquisition should be more around hiring for curiosity, hiring for potential, hiring for adaptability to change. We touch on emerging talent programs. You know, a lot of them have been very one-dimensional, focused on the top 10% tier of universities. But to be able to find the talent of the future, you're going to have to dip into far more diverse talent pools from far more socio-economic backgrounds. We move over to build, and I guess a couple of key points for me on build. The first one is that I think most TA heads I talk to now say that internal mobility sucks. So organisations don't move skills around in the organisation well. So in terms of the build strategy and finding the right people for the future, having a strong internal mobility campaign will be key. The second one is, and this was touched on in Tim's presentation around the age of the individual. So the way that we go about learning and development and coaching people will be very different. The classroom-based thing won't work. There was a study from Deloitte's last year where they said where people are put into teams with peers connected learning, as they call it, 38% more productivity. So you can't find the skills, they don't exist, you've got to train. It's going to have to be done in a real-time environment rather than traditional training methods. When we talk about total talent, I would say that the borrower is probably what most of us associate with. So what's my permanent workforce, what's my contract book, how do I get them to work? And I would say, you know, in all countries in the world, one really positive development is that we do see movement. Procurement have stopped, approaching talent in the same way they did pens and pencils. I can remember, even 3 years ago, I'd go and do an audit of an organisation's contract book. They tell me they had 1,000 contractors, and at the end of the audit, they had 2,900. That was kind of how out of control things were. So we've seen a definite maturing there. 2 years ago, we used to be marriage guidance council between HR and procurement. Now we see much more alignment, much more forward planning. But in terms of getting this right, I guess this would be a kind of point for us in terms of planning. What most people are telling us is that the big issue around effectively executing this is data. How can you plan an enterprise talent strategy without the information to inform your decisions? And although I'm going to talk in the second half a lot about the great stuff going on with systems, I still haven't seen a silver bullet of systems that gives you a uniform set of data for contract and perm. And that's going to be essential to really crack this total talent problem. The next area is partnering, and I'm going to say something controversial, so switch the tapes off if my CEO heard me say that she'd shoot me. I think when we think of partnering, most of the objections I've had over the last few years to total talent are, I won't put all my eggs in one basket. There's too much risk. And I think that's a very old-fashioned way of looking at this talent challenge. I think our ecosystem, the kind of solutions we're going to need to provide in the future, they won't always be outsourcing. They may be consulting, they may be agile projects. So the age of 4-year contracts with rigid SLAs, it's not going to work in a rapidly changing world. And I think all of us are going to have to grow up and be willing to work as partners and play nicely in the same sandpit. So in a total talent strategy, it's quite possible that ourselves, AMS, could have one piece of jigsaw and Korn Ferry another, because no one's got all the skills and all the knowledge in all the countries. The final piece, which I guess is talked about the most, and we talk about AI, we talk about RPO, is automating what place that has in the talent acquisition sector. And for me, I think the big danger with automation is that people overlook the real purpose of it. The real purpose of automation is actually to make people's jobs better. So that the time you spend doing repetitive, boring processes, quite often and usually the roles that turn over the most, that's what can be replaced with automation. And I know in AMS, our belief is that all of the money we save in automation, we flood it back into a much richer kind of people-based experience with the end client. That's something that we're keen on. So these 5, all organisations are going to need to have a very clear plan and vision for all of them. The reality is we are at ground zero, it's just starting. So if you haven't got it all figured out, don't worry, you're just like everyone else. But just having these building blocks and think about how they're going to fit together in the future will be really key if you don't want to be a stat like that talent crunch thing that I showed you at the beginning of the presentation. So I've talked enough. So what we're going to do now, we're going to have about 20 minutes. And the idea is 10, 12, 30 minutes interactive table today. And then we're going to ask 2 or 3 tables to come back and give feedback. We've got these questions, but you can do what I usually do and answer the question I want to, even if it wasn't asked. So I answer these questions, but equally, if there's any great points that come out on the table, then just give us feedback on your views of total talent and what it means. There's more coming in the second half on digital. We just wanted to open up with talent, because I think we do the business and then technology. So the 3 questions, and we could take this from a vendor or a client viewpoint, because there's both in the room. So number 1, where are you on the total talent journey? Number 2, what are your biggest obstacles or blockers to actually executing a total talent strategy? And then number 3, what do you see as the key enablers? So we can take about 10 or 15 minutes, and then when that's kind of broken out, and I'm going to come back on different tables to give me answers, so be prepared. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Tara. I'm from AMS.
Do you have anything?
Just read ourselves around. So I guess for the people on the table, in terms of total talent, looking at both your permanent workforce and also your contracted temp, other workforce, how is that managed in your organisations? Is it still segmented, or are you starting to bring that together?
Of our contractors, it's our life cycles as well. So they come from working I don't think it's a contractor that says that you would define something typically.
The attrition is high or ready.
But in terms of that, we manage it. We all manage it on the same side.
It's interesting because a lot of companies are nervous about putting contracted data on their permanent systems because they're worried about employment risk and things like that as well. So,
I think we can just first thing like why
Right. So, it's a strategy of your operation. You're not just putting down it's long but not just, like I said, not just enabling the building because so that even areas like you are hiring today might be potential examples 5 to 10 years down the road. And that knowledge you can use it today, external models that will do and internal strategy.
Interesting. I'll come back to your question because I don't know. How are you managing total talent in your organisation?
So we are kind of stuck and I have a very long service period here.
Do you have a lot of
when I do the calculations of service here, actually it was over 10 years ago. So it would be kind of less common in a high-tech company because normally it will be much shorter services in the company. So when I look at it, I think, the institutions, first of all, myself, if people can transform people from new strategy, they will be different still. If not, we have to trigger someone just, we have to let go some of those in the past change their mindsets. And on the other side, when we are
And you don't use an MSP for that?
we ask the managers to hire us because at the very beginning we come across the mindset managers always say, hey, this one thing, can you manage the team now? But I say no, we are not looking for someone who are now. So we want to have some hybrid culture rather than they have very long experience. They have been in the position in the past. I say no, we don't want this type of time. So we're trying to ask the managers to change the mindset. On the other side, I think we put more focus on the hiring of managers in the last 3 years because we believe every year we hire 10 graduates, they will replace the management. So it's very important you include the new blood there, because they are the future. If they got the potential, in 3 to 5 years, they give the managers rather than wait for some people they work for 20 years and become the team leader. They are now satisfied. So it's good to have some of them in the company to stabilize, but not all. So that is for our talent
Contractors or contingent workers?
we have been outsourced to this. I think this is common for a lot of high-tech because actually, I think we outsource quite a number of businesses. So no more contractor or temp worker under our payroll. So, and also, it is managed by the manager, not HR. So HR don't have the record. So, when they say, anything necessary, they say it's not under HR. So, only on a necessary basis, they need to have the contingency worker. Because we said you have to justify the headcount. If it's really needed, it's under our payroll, it's under our regular. So we did discuss with the manager from time to time, whether those contractor, whether the position is required, and whether it's a long-term basis.
How many hires do you do?
It's a long-term basis, and employees are on a very good time. We try to, whether to fill in as a replacement headcount, or whether we can ask for extra headcount for this. Because anyway, the cost is
It's always the same roles, right?
It's just a headcount issue. And so we did fight for the headcount issue on some exceptional good contractors. Because we realized that actually determined.
Do you invest in employee branding or
But we assume those are only handled like
how do you check the levels?
basis because we have very strict rule that those have sales-related job, they can't be put under the contract. So they can't put on a commission.
I'm curious, because guys in Australia and we've been very active contingent workforce market. But I've certainly found in Asia that there's less of a preference from an employee or a contractor to work as contractors as well. So have you guys found that, or have you found that's changing as we get a new workforce coming into the market?
Yeah, I think that across Asia Pacific, Australia market is the most mature when it comes to contracting. The rest of Asia is more from a contractor perspective, but equally from an employee perspective, there are a lot of challenges that people probably watch out for, right? I mean, for example, in certain countries, you can't have a contractor who will be on 2 years because then there's a zero right? There is, even though they may be managed out of the same system, again, you codify them differently, but then you've got to keep the benefits separate, right? Now, on one hand, you do all of that to mitigate your risk, right? On the other hand, you contractors and permanent, you're also kind of making it very apparent to disparity, right? And like, as you mentioned that, it's money by the business. Now, when it's money by the business, who's doing consistency, who's making sure that the parity, etc. is looked after. So, it's a good and bad. You're creating a little bit of a beast there, but at the same time, in most organizations, they do need this
Or it gives you agility, doesn't it? Scalability. I think that's where I find it really interesting because we wrap our arms around the permanent workforce and give them all the benefits, they get training, and sometimes your contractors or temporary workers are not treated in the same way, yet they're really critical to achieving the goals of your business. And it's a very difficult balancing act, and that's where we always find very challenging that some contractors in some organisations are managed and selected by the business. HR don't even want to be involved. Others are it's managed by procurement. It's like it's a commodity. Yet actually, when you start to look at the total talent landscape, all of these people are contributing to the success of your organisation. Previously managed in very ways.
I think the gradual shift from to MSP is probably somewhat the
All righty, 3-minute warning, and then make sure you've got your nominated spokesperson. I'm not going to go around every table for both topics, so I'll probably pick from a couple of tables now and then a couple of tables after the teacher one as well. 2 minutes.
So we have started out looking for contract staff like for short-term recruiting positions or HR. Well, it's really hard to find people. Perhaps in Asia, but unlike Australia, business women don't get it's all instant.
Yeah.
It's part of our you get all the benefits in your social companies need
you look at that Hong Kong employment stats, you do need to work as a contract staff. But it's interesting what you were saying, some of the generations they want to work differently. Have you started to see some of that in Asia?
Okay. Bring things to a close, and then we'll pick on some things.
I actually
Okay, you can, when you're picked on, hopefully you can stand up so your name and then okay guys.
Hi everybody, I'm from Agile Solutions. On our table today we have discussed the fact that the majority of people are still focused on permanent hiring, and there's pockets of people looking at things like interim working coordinators in Australia, some temp management and some interim management. On the whole, it's all permanent hiring. Across the board, there's now technology that enables visibility of all the different engagements within an organisation, so that would be an enabler, I think, in the future. And in terms of blockers, most of the blockers we discussed today are around the different markets and the different scarcity of skill sets in each of those markets. And that's generally what's driving the decision making in terms of how you are engaging with different types of talent.
Thanks. I'll go directly. Who's the spokesperson for that?
I'll say you. Okay. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Arun from TCS. Our table was quite interactive. So we were talking about different experience because I'm from a technology firm. So we have somebody from logistics and we have somebody from CPA firm. So the experiences are very different, and the maturity of each of our companies and the industry is very different. So to summarize our talent journey, from a technology perspective, we are like fairly ahead because we have a fairly stabilized attraction process, our onboarding is digitized, our employee experience is taken care of. But the main challenge that all the three of us face are in terms of the top of the funnel, like how do you get more people, how do you attract more applications? Because even for a technology company in Hong Kong, it's not sought after as a career of choice. Like people prefer working in a bank or an insurance firm. So the attraction is the biggest challenge that most of us have. And in terms of enablement, I think a lot of companies these days are investing in systems. How do you digitize the entire process? How do you get the right candidate experience? Which links into a larger HR agenda, which is more on the retention of people. So you get the right experience with a person, you take care of the first year journey and they stay with you longer. So though it's not related to the talent strategy, more from a retention perspective, it's interlinked as vertically. Thank you.
I actually think that's a great point because traditionally we thought about total talent around acquisition, but more and more will be about retention and development and stuff as well. So that's a really good point. Steve.
Thank you. Stephen Abbott from Peoplesgate. Here in our table we had providers, so we all work for RPOs, and the discussions we were having was that one of the first things we're seeing about where we're seeing some interest and where we see it working. Engineering services, IT services, companies that are traditionally very project-driven. In our dealings with them, seem to be more open to the idea of connecting the RPO and the perm hiring to the contract management piece, especially when they're working on long-scale projects. It's more familiar within their DNA also. Challenges we discussed, certainly Europe, Asia, multi-region, multi-legislation areas, more inclination we're seeing amongst companies to localize the pieces and sort them up. So we see a lot of that. And also we discussed the idea of companies not necessarily wanting to put all their eggs in one basket, so that they can see that there are benefits, but also wanting to keep their options open. And the fact that in some cases, the contract side is occasionally more of a procurement-driven process. The RPO side tends to have more of a lean while obviously procurement involved to the HR stakeholder side as well. So sometimes some conflicting priorities there.
Right, thank you. So that was really kind of a forerunner for because I think when we think of total talent, the most important thing will be, we all know about tech and digital and how that impacts and enables it. I'm just going to spend now another 7 or 8 minutes talking about how technology influences total talent, and then once again, hand it back to the floor. I think what we, all of us in our experiences, whether it's client side, vendor side, what we would see in the last few years, if I think back 2 years ago, I'd come out with a bot, a company would come out with a bot or something smart, and we perceive it as real differentiation. Now, as a provider, when we go into an active tender, just having the whole suite of technology and knowledge, and how to implement, how to push through what partners to select, that's just table stakes now, particularly in the US. So we are seeing what I would say this hyper-acceleration of the digital agenda, and organisations that don't grasp it will be in trouble. What we're really fascinated with is that there's a lot of noise, a lot of rhetoric around folks using technology, which is to understand really how embedded that is in reality. So we conducted a piece of market research. It was fairly comprehensive with an organisation called Aptitude. Went out to over 500 organisations across the world. We went to small, medium and large companies, and we went to all different geographies to try and get a perspective on what's happening around the world. And then in terms of making this piece of research as relevant as possible, we focused it just on HR and TA heads. So we got responses from 500 HR and TA leaders around where they were on the digital transformation journey. And I guess in terms of the results, there was one side that was not surprising, and then one set of results that was really surprising. So first of all, when we look at the benefits, we've already heard this before, 2 times more likely to improve retention, 3 times more likely to improve the candidate experience. And certainly for me, if I think of digital at the moment, in the last 1 or 2 years, we've seen the focus shift far more from cost to candidate experience in terms of solutions. 2 times more likely to improve performance, 2 times more likely to improve quality of hire. Personally, what I've seen on this is that this technology is making a real difference, but where the HR organisation, the technology organisation need to improve is measuring and showing the tangible benefits to the business. Because there's still a battle to get the budget, there's still a lot of loopholes you have to go through to get tech. So I think in terms of really embedding it within the TA function, measuring it and showing the benefits is going to be critical. What was slightly more concerning is kind of some of the outputs from these 500 countries and companies in terms of where they're at. So I think everyone's playing in the sandpit and doing bits and bobs, but in terms of just how much it's penetrated, that was slightly more worrying. So only 24% of companies have a budget for this stuff within the TA function. So I'm going to, Tim's not here to disagree with me, so I'm going to beg to differ on his fact that 75% of companies are investing in innovation and so on. Certainly in the TA space, most of the people I speak to, they recognise the need, but they can't get a budget. That's the biggest headache. And then people, only 32% actually have internal resources to do this. And this is in a landscape that's moving so rapidly, changing so much. And we haven't got people that know what's going on. How can you possibly select and implement all of these, great things that are at your disposal? And 1 in 4 companies have no plans for digital transformation. I'm pretty sure they're going the same way as Blockbuster, Kodak, had. So that's kind of seems a bit surprising to me. And then we drop that down to a regional level. I guess the first thing we see, so if anyone in the room is panicking that we're going at the beginning of this journey, we're going to die. Actually, once again, so are most of the world really. So you look at the different data points here. If we take North America, there's still 40% of American companies that are either not started or just started the journey. Similar stats for Europe, but APAC has probably got the biggest hole. That makes sense with country fragmentation and volumes and so on. But today, 55% of organisations in our survey in APAC are still pretty much at the beginning or haven't started a digital transformation journey. So we're all in the same boat. There's so much choice, there's limited budgets, how do you make it happen? So no one has solved the puzzle yet, I can say, if that's any kind of comfort to anyone. So within Alexander Mann Solutions, we really look at technology in 2 ways. We implement it for our clients, so it's an embedded part of our solutions. But we also have a 400-person business that focuses on selection and integration and implementation of technology tools. So in terms of the insights I'm going to share around what we think is important in digital, this is kind of a bit from an AMS viewpoint, a lot from a consulting viewpoint. There are hundreds of clients that we operate with every day. And for us, there are kind of 4 key things in terms of your digital strategy. And I think the most important thing is they're all interconnected and how you plan brings them all into the equation from a digital viewpoint. So for me, certainly on the things I've seen go wrong, and I have seen a few things go wrong, the most important part of technology, stating the obvious, is the people side. So many organisations have great technology, but they don't think about the change management involved. They don't win the hearts and minds. They don't think about the candidate experience. They build from technology before process. So all of the technology integrations, all of the digital programs we've seen go well, they started with people at the heart. And they've listened and embedded and then made a change. The second area, and I think so many companies are making this mistake at the moment, is that if you think you're on a journey, you want to get to an end point, because of all of these sexy digital enablers out there, you can go out and buy software as a service to solve one problem very quickly. You can do it in weeks. They'll promise you they're implemented with no pain. But the reality is, if you go off buying bits and pieces, digital enablers along the way, you're going to wake up one day and you haven't done your coherent journey and strategy and where you need to go. So from our viewpoint, the most important thing is focus on your core platforms at the start. Understand what's your HRIS system, how your ATS and VMS fit in, and then move on to digital enablers. It's a bit like, build the foundations of the house before you put the jacuzzi. So just get the platform right, and then move on. In terms of digital enablers, and I'm just going to touch on that briefly in a moment, this is the bit, there are so many great technologies out there. A lot of them coming from startups out of the States, but also Asia. Australia's big on it. So there's so much choice, so many things that can add value. And I think the biggest issue there is, unless you've got people who are looking and learning on this stuff all the time, how do you know what's relevant? What's good today will probably be obsolete in 6 months' time. So that's kind of a real challenge. And from our viewpoint, there are 2 key lessons on these digital enablers. One, every presentation these companies give you, they'll tell you it's all great, it's easy to implement, it's no problem. But then sometimes the reality can be quite disappointing. So when you're looking at these kind of products, I urge people to look at 2 things. Number one, how easy are they to implement into your core systems? Can they show where they've implemented, how long it took, how much it cost before? And then secondly, what's their experience and how they dealt with the security environment in the organisation? I spoke to one bank that will obviously remain unnamed and told me that they had a really nice digital enabling tool they'd like to put in around candidate experience. The cost of the tool was about 150k. The cost of the security protocols to get through it was 1.5 million. So that's the kind of challenge. So when you're looking at these digital products, and they tried and tested it, they got beyond the firewall, how did they do it, in terms of how they're structured in the business. Or, from a provider viewpoint, not everything has to go from your system. Can it be off the system, out of the system, with the provider? So I'm just going to talk about this. We could spend an hour on this slide, but this is, so what we did at Alexander Mann, we were basically confused by the huge plethora of choice around technology products and what you should choose, and I guess as a kind of a digital native, I was just scratching my head and I realised it's not for me as the MD to know every one of these products and what we do, because what's good today will probably be completely out of date in 2 or 3 months' time anyway. So what we did was we hired someone from Deloitte and we developed a partner ecosystem, and we had a team that essentially spent every day, they look at every week I should say, they look at 4 digital platforms, and then they try them, they test them, they check for implementation, they check for security. So it's effectively a living, sleeping review of the products out there and what's happening and what we should use. And then what we've done on top of that is we've categorised them into different areas of the recruitment process. So if you're interested in how to source, if you're interested in assessment, if you're interested in insight tools, you can actually go into a bucket, click on it and find out about those. Now this is not a pitch on Alexander Mann, this could be Alexander Mann. There are other great companies out there that do this. But the key thing is that TA leader, the odds on you having the internal resources, know-how and specialisation to do all this is over zero. But there are some really great organisations in the market that spend thousands of hours stacking, ranking, reviewing these things on an ongoing basis, so use them. Otherwise, you're probably buying yesterday's toy that's not fit for purpose tomorrow. So that's kind of our quick preamble on tech. Incredibly complex, moving at a rate of knots. But we're keen to get into discussion again. So the questions that you can answer or ignore and answer what you want to, again, are how far advanced are you in the digital TA strategy? Once again, that can be as a vendor or as a client partner, as a client or customer. What are the main obstacles and what are the key enabling features? So similar format, spend about 10, 30 minutes, have a chat, and then we'll bring back some at the end. Thanks.
You still rely on
Most organisations will have an ATS or some sort of recruit.
Well, I think at the bottom level, so lots of things that I think was very nice once they selected. And I know some other countries like Australia, they also have but every term feel like so that's the two and the
I think it's through this, the moment you have a requisitions version, onboarding the person, beyond, I guess, just your core platform, which I think most of us either have HRS or an applicant tracking system, and they're becoming far and few between. But doing anything else that's starting to think about whether it's digital, the way you engage, you reach out, how you engage with candidates. Are you bringing any AI or automation into your strategy? Are you doing anything around mobile? I guess that's what we're talking about when we look at the end-to-end strategy. Is how you leveraging these kind of new technologies to kind of drive improvements either in we're there.
That's already good. It's usually 90.
part that is going to be complete onboarding. Also, we need to put the new parents managers and also the
Yeah, we do. It's kind of day. So you probably spend
inquiries and talked about there's lots of new products out there as well. So many. Do you get contacted from people trying to talk to you about other products as well in terms of your world, or are you guys really set in the workday? Have you thought about what you might need outside of workday? You seem to think that it pretty much solves what you need. Yeah.
When we get into a person level, we try to offer full view on this to
might be these are the kind of partners we could partner with some of the probably very close, right? Where we are progressing further, we need to intervention, interaction with clients. What do you do? Right, for scheduling, you bring in tools to automatically schedule, so it's saving time, but equally integrating with your Outlook or integrating with your agents, right? One thing to do with our clients is, as part of the digital, rather than just using a JD, a static JD, and sending the quick to the client, to your candidate, what they're really doing is a video recording of the line manager who talks about the role, right? And put it on LinkedIn. That is really powerful, and you see somebody really passionate about their job, talking about these different things are kind of sometimes, adding to the journey. That's really interesting.
Well, I think video interviewing as well. Seeing these organisations using that as a way of, I guess, allowing people to do basic screening, but on video, so you can judge it on the dimension rather than just their CV. Alternatively, enabling them to kind of do things in their own time as well, so it's saving time in terms
I'm not exactly from a slightly different perspective. The sense that technology is one side of it, and our more emphasize on the compliance and cyber ethics aspect because the rule hasn't been really being well laid out yet, and then overuse of this digital technology with some time put the company in a rather vulnerable position legally. So now in this we must set of basic rules saying that what you do is not at least to start with some guideline on how to achieve. So that's my focus there. It's not quite different from yours. Technology side is the control side is also really important.
It's not just, what I've certainly thought about this in our own organisation. Does that bring compliance? Because you're having hiring managers say, send me that CV, thank you, you're like, all of a sudden you're your personal data. So, as we move, particularly in Asia, and I find it really fascinating because messaging hasn't taken off quite the same in Europe. And I'm like, China can do everything on WeChat, and they're like, they can't because it's not secure. And I'm like, they can't do business. They're not on WeChat.
Digital or someone pays for a CV.
I think that's one of the challenges with the big ATSs is the front end is still
Not that
no.
they still have to see it from the desktop and everything, fill out the forms, while WeChat is just a few clicks away.
But a lot of different CRMs are actually positioning themselves as being mobile enabled.
Yes.
Right? I mean, there are a number of those. And typically you would use these when you've got graduate events or you've got mass events, right? Or even when you're using, say, if you're in manufacturing kind of places where people don't necessarily access internet very often. Their mobile enabled CRMs are actually creating that image.
I mean, things change. For example, I agree, but even so, you're directed to
Eventually. And then you have to fill out the 78 questions, and I think that's one of the things we've been really thinking about is, how do you get that balance right between the technology, which is great, but actually that is detrimental to the candidate experience, because really what you want to do is get a candidate in quickly and be able to assess them. I think as you remember many years ago implementing an ATS, you do all these beautiful lots of questions and all these workflows, and all of a sudden candidates aren't applying because it's too hard. Your recruiters are skipping through the work because it's too complicated. So you're also in danger of kind of focusing more on process than on work experience, I think. So we get it depends who's involved in, and that's where I certainly thought if you come at it with the lens of experience when you're thinking about building a digital strategy, whether it's sort of recruiter experience, the experience of the hiring manager, experience of a candidate, I think you'll probably come up with a very different answer if you want to, if you put your process hat on, you want to do all this stuff, but if you think about experience, I think you can come up from a technology perspective with a very different way of rolling out the technology and implementing this.
I don't know what is
when we're talking about some research, it's really for the mainland candidates or the Hong Kong candidates, because Hong Kong people, they're not the police for the research, especially for mainland candidates.
Yeah, right. You would say the focuses on mainland candidate, but it also there with job roles.
Somehow, it's a kind of
Okay, everyone, 2-minute warning.
The tender obviously between.
So the candidates can select preferred counselors and criteria and students and critical
We don't even have that. We have
Is about HP doing anything interesting on the tech front from
I think we support from comparing, we use the workday. I must say that I don't think we are very advanced in the data side. We're still using online platform, job postings, applications. So the strategy, to me, I think we are not bad, but it's not really a very competitive way. I'm not sure. What I expect is what type of job directly linked to what channel don't have to make a decision every time. But right now I think we are still primitive. So every time when we come to something, we have to create a hiring program, we have to design a channel. So based on the say the network visual benefit or attention of the branding, it would definitely affect itself. So we have to design, on the program. For example, graduate program, we found that we have very poor connection with the children, which is and they only know about HP. HP is selling the computer. We are not selling computer, right? So they say that, okay, sorry, we have to offer you a seat in the career experience. Why you can't offer? What is your company doing? Selling the computer?
Okay, everyone, we can wrap it up and we're going to do a similar thing as we did last time. And we're going to ask the remaining tables any kind of summary around what was discussed and agreed. So, first table, who is your host first? Oh, big surprise. Okay, guys.
Alright, so at our table we had quite a few different industries with different challenges. So we had JLL who's going through a big HR transformation project, implementing a core HR system that's still no ATS to speak of just yet, but also some challenges around different talent categories, so professional hires, but also then often very operational entry-level staff as well, with different access to tools and even laptops and things like that. So we also had an audit firm who interestingly has a 40% contingent workforce population, but doing it all in spreadsheets. So really, really challenging. But then we talked about obstacles, including budget. Budget's always a big one. Investment, also the fact that IT teams are quite lean. So you go into a long queue of priorities, and often TA doesn't really sort of get the attention that it needs. But we also talked about sort of clients who are drawing
or connecting the dots between a poor candidate experience and therefore potentially loss of revenue, and they're the ones that are starting to actually invest in a better digitised process.
Thanks, John. Okay. Who's the spokesperson?
Get away with it.
Hi. So mainly at our table we had professional services firms and HP, and I think, to be fair, most of them are at the very embryonic stages of their digital strategy. So for the most part have HROs, maybe an ATS in place, recognise that there is a need to be digital. I think some of the challenges that people are seeing is the likes of EY, we're working in a global firm, so the digital strategy is set at a global level and maybe doesn't recognise some of the nuances of the local market. So things like the pervasiveness of messaging platforms here in Asia. Rainbow talked about the fact that they're using lots of WeChat and WhatsApp, but it's just happening. It's not part of the talent ecosystem, and that proposes some really unique nuances for us all to think about in terms of, I think John obviously raised some really interesting points about the fact we can do all this digital stuff, but depending on your organisation, you then need to think about security, cyber ethics and so on, and the vulnerability that you might have to legal risks as well. So I think everybody's at that very early stage. We also had a really interesting chat about the lens that we bring to thinking about technology and the fact that I think historically most people have come at it from a process perspective. How can we make the process more efficient? How can we be more productive? And actually, if we flip our lens to thinking about the experience, actually we might implement something quite different as well. And that digital, all of these platforms now are making us start to think about that experience as well.
Thanks, Doc. Final table. You got a spokesperson?
Actually, for the first slot and for the second one, we sort of decided really to answer it quite literally. One of the biggest obstacles and main facilitators is leadership, and that leadership team. And in Asia, the leadership team, particularly at the board level, tends to be a little bit older. And you see in the privately owned enterprises in China, the leaders coming at 30, 40, it's happening. That's the way it goes. At the higher level, the large traditional companies in Hong Kong, family owned, across Asia, etc., it's much more difficult. These people, we talk about should say large trading sort of company. I want to name them. At the very beginning of this visualization process, in kindergarten, in school terms. And part of that reason is trying to get these guys who built the company from zip over 20, 30 years, say to them, actually, we want you to do something you don't understand. They don't have any concept of, still using paper and ordering, still doing all this by paper, and we're going to digitalize your whole process and make it great. Very scary. And one of the other ones was a lot of large companies tend to go, right, we're going to digitalize this process. And so they implement this huge program to digitalize the process. Instead of doing it in a small section, making the process work, showing the concept, proving the concept to everybody else, including the top management, showing the ROI, and then slowly building it out. And that's sort of a basic idea, really, because organisations are made up of micro-organisations. If you get those micro-organisations, the leaders in that, you can build it up. But I think leadership is a big problem and a big enabler, depending on which way around.
Great, thank you. The one point that resonates a lot there with me is this concept on the digital journey around small incremental improvements. So don't try to change the world in one sweep. And, you know, we've been on journeys that took 5-6 years with big professional services organisations. Prove a concept, build, and you wake up in Nirvana one day, but it's never done overnight, no matter what people say. Just to close out, so first of all, a big thank you for your attention. I was just going to judge whether this kind of format of chatting to each other works by whether people were chatting. So you're either talking about the weather or football, or it did work. So, but there was definitely a lot of animated debate, which is what we want from this. So from Alexander and Solutions viewpoint, I think just a couple of leading thoughts. As it pertains to total talent, I think all too often, previously, total talent was looked at as perm or contract. I think there's a much more complex debate out there. So as anyone looks at their total talent strategy, think of the buy, think of the build, think of the partner, think of the automate, think of the borrow, and how they interact. And then as it pertains to digital, I think, number one, the most important thing in any digital strategy is the people and their buy-in, engagement. Number two, start with the core platforms and then put the sexy stuff in. And then number three, when you're putting the sexy stuff in, use people who know what they're doing to advise you on what to put in, how it implements, how to get through the security kind of challenges. So they're just a few passing thoughts, and a big thank you all for your kind of contribution today. Thank you.
Thanks, that was a great session. So we're going to go to lunch. Before we go, I want to leave you with one thought based on what we just talked about. And I was talking about this just before the session with Neil and Shirley Fung, who is here. Shirley Fung is one of the top HR people at Li & Fung, which is the very, very large supply chain logistics company based here in Asia, but they're everywhere, about 350 different offices around the world, about 13.5 billion in turnover. So huge company, right? But one of the things we were talking about before the session is the biggest problem you have with your digital journey and why it's so few companies are on it is because of the lack of respect. And I'm using this word very literally, respect, that HR gets compared to other management disciplines. So every time you try to go to your CFO or your chief financial officer or your head of finance and you say, I need money to invest in digital platforms, they come back and tell you that's an expense. But to your customer relationship management system, Salesforce, wherever it may be, that's an investment. They capitalize it. So as a result of how the software and technology investment is done in HR versus other areas of the business like manufacturing, sales, etc., or service, it really makes it hard. So we went out HRO Today, we surveyed everyone, and they said, well, we're not getting much capital investment. So we went back and said, well, we asked the finance people, and in the survey, the finance people said, well, HR, that's not capital investment because there's no return on it. Okay, there's another word we use in English to describe that. It's called idiotic. Okay, the CFOs who responded that way were idiotic. Okay, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. So I think part of the goal for HR, and I want you to think about this during lunch, is how do we tell a better story about why digital is a great investment for the future? Because the CFO might not listen to you, but I'll tell you who is listening. Okay, if you read the McKinsey report, the PwC surveys, the Mercer surveys of CEOs, concern about the workforce is 1 or 2 on the CEO's list. So you've got to go past finance and talk to the C-suite. You've got to talk to the CEO or the COO because they'll listen. All right, lunch is going to be for 1 hour. We're back at 1:45, and after that, Alfonso Nunez from the AGS. We changed the schedule up a little bit to give you some nutrition, give you a boost for the afternoon. The sun's coming out, the world's looking up. I mean, so everything's going to be great after we have something to eat. And later on, we're going to have something to drink, which is even better to a certain point. But enjoy lunch, continue network, continue talking about these things. How do we sell it better to the executive suite? How important HR's digital journey is. Thank you. We'll see you 1:45.
Buffet's just in the next room, so that's all set up, and you can grab that and come back to your chairs to eat lunch. And we'll see you start the program in an hour.
Someone's going to retweet that clip of me calling people idiots.
Yeah. What about the